أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to Tuesday night program of Dua Tawassul. Inshallah, we'll start with the recitation of Dua followed by a brief speech. Just a reminder, inshallah, next Wednesday, Masjid-e-Ali, in conjunction with Sadiq School, will be holding their annual fundraiser, of course, minus the dinner, because of the COVID-19 restrictions. The program will be held online on Wednesday, December 30th, tentatively around 8:30. You can join us live on Zoom, and of course, you can always join us on YouTube as well. It'll be a virtual end of the year fundraiser, which inshallah will include family fun filled programs such as games, manqabat, speeches, special messages by the scholars from around the world. So we hope that you can all join us, inshallah, next Wednesday, December 30th. We wanted to do it before the beginning of next year, and December 31st would have been the, of course, Thursday night. So there's already a Shabbat Jummah program. Therefore, this program will be, inshallah, on Wednesday night. Hopefully, all of you can join us. Inshallah, we'll continue to make these announcements. Inshallah, we'll start with the recitation of Dua Tawassul. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Before I begin, there's a request for Dua Sihat for many of our community members who are not feeling well, sick, or maybe in hospitals due to COVID or other reasons. Let's pray for them while we're reciting Dua Tawassul. Keep them in your du'as, keep them in your prayers, inshallah. A special request is for certain individuals such as Brother Nasir Rizvi, as well as Brother Hassan Ali, known as Hasubhai. So please keep these two individuals in your du'as, as well as other people who might be in need of du'a that we did not mention their names. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. اللهم إني أسألك وتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله يا إمام الرحمة يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله. يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي يا ابن محمد أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله يا هجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وسي الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. Ask for your hajat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يا سادتي وموالي إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا سادتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين آمين رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Let's recite 5 times Amma for all the people who are in need of dua, especially the names that I mentioned before. Um, Brother Hassan Ali Subai, as well as Brother Nasir Rizvi. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Amma yujibu al-mustarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su. 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 أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء ويجعلكم خلفاء الأرض أإله مع الله قليلا ما تذكرون اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله ثم لم يرتابوا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم في سبيل الله أولئك هم الصادقون صدق الله العلي العظيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. The verse that I recited is verse number 15 from Surah Hujurat, chapter number 49 from the Holy Quran. We find in these last few ayat of this chapter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is counting the different signs or the features of mu'mineen. He says the faithful are only those. So there's this hasr that is happening with the word innama that is being utilized. The faithful are only those who have attained belief in Allah, amanu billahi, and his apostle, wa rasulihi, and then thumma lam yartabu, and then they have never doubted. So once you bring belief in Allah, faith in Allah and his apostle, then if you want to be called a mu'min, then you should not doubt for an instance about what Allah has asked you to perform and what Prophet has asked you to do. This includes, of course, all of the wajibat, refraining from all of the manhiyat, or those things which are forbidden. And this also includes some of the recommendations which are at the status of wajib, yani not being an obligation in a sense that you perform on daily basis, but of being obligation nonetheless whenever the need arises. And this also includes Prophet's instructions aside from the furu'idin, for example. So you look at Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Prophet to say, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. I do not ask you any compensation except that you should, or that you may show mawaddat toward my family. And so that's a feature of a mu'min, and that's a feature of what Rasulullah is demanding from his people or his nation. So from that aspect, this mawadda fil qurba becomes an obligation. So we find that the faithful are only those who have attained belief in Allah, and they have attained belief in his apostle, and then they have never doubted again as to what Allah has asked them to do and what Prophet has asked them to do. And then the ayat continues. Wajahadu, and these are the people who do what? Jihad. Wajahadu bi amwalihim wa anfusihim. Those who strive hard for the cause of Allah, for the cause of God, with their property and soul. They are the ones who are truthful. Ulaika humus sadiqun. In Quran, certain places we find wajahadu bi amwalihim wa anfusihim. And sometimes it is bi anfusihim, and then, for example, bi amwalihim. Over here, in order to prove the iman and to be at that level of iman to be considered mu'min, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings the concept of using your property ahead of giving sacrifice through your life. Of course, giving sacrifice through your life is much bigger than just giving what you possess. But even, of course, not all of us would have the opportunity to sacrifice ourselves for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what we can do is sacrifice through our wealth, through our property. Jahadu bi amwalihim. Those who do jihad and strive hard for the cause of God with their property. So here it is an opportunity given to us to do jihad with our property. Use it properly for the betterment of your community, betterment of your society, helping out those who are in need. Striving in the way of Allah not only means that, spending only, for example, in order to help those who are fighting literally, but in other means that whatever is the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make sure that you're ready to sacrifice your properties and you're ready to sacrifice yourselves if that's the need, if arises. So the four verses in which Quran starts with the sentence innamal mu'minun. So you find these four verses in Quran, and in Quran start with the sentence innamal mu'minun and gives a sketch of a real believer. So you thought when we recited this ayat number 15 from Surah Hujurat that these are the only mu'min and no one else would be categorized as a mu'min. Well, Quran on four different occasions begins the ayat with innamal mu'minun. Mu'min is only this, mu'min is only this, mu'min is only this, mu'min is only this. This does not mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, saying, of course, he's saying these things in bits and pieces. So there could be the discussion has a very wide scope and it could encompass a lot of things. Similar to the kalam of Ma'asumin, kalam of Rasulullah, where they too mention some of the features of mu'minin. So here we'll only focus on the ayat of Quran. First was the ayat that I recited for you from Surah Hujurat. إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله ثم لم يرتابوا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم أولئك هم الصادقون. That mu'min is someone who believes in Allah, believes in apostle, and does not doubt. This does not doubt is the key word in that ayah, because everybody will say, well, yeah, we believe in Allah, we believe in the Prophet and his prophethood, and we're ready to do jihad with our properties, with our wealth, and with our souls, if need be. But the concept of thumma lam yartabu is something which is very delicate here, which tells you that even for a moment, you deny something which Allah has decreed upon you. You decline that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made obligatory upon you. You fail that which has been made obligatory upon you. That means you are doubting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one of the things that is obligatory upon us is the salat, for example, just so that I can clarify this concept and move forward with the ayat of innamal mu'minun. Inshallah, I'll try and be very brief. Within the next 5-6 minutes, I'll finish the discussion. That namaz or salat is something anyone who prays, anyone who performs the salat should be able to make others pray as well. Because tabligh or propagation is not the duty of a mu'min. Pay attention to the words. Tabligh or propagation is not the duty of a mu'min. Rather, tabligh and propagation is the feature of a mu'min. At one point, you say, well, it's my duty. Sometimes you fail at your duty. Sometimes you perform your duty. But when it is a feature of you, then of course there's something which you will definitely not miss. So that's amongst the believers and those who have brought iman. Second verse in this reference is ayat from Surah Anfal, ayat number 2. It says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ وَإِذَا تُلِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُهُ زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا وَعَلَى رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. I've spoken about this ayat as well, that indeed mu'min is someone, when God is mentioned, the true believers begin to feel fear of him in their hearts, And when his revelations are recited to them, their faith strengthens, becomes more and more strong. In God alone do they trust. So we've talked about this ayat, and I'll just remind you in context of the ayah. Here it says, إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُم, where it says, other places, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُ, that with the dhikr of Allah, hearts are at ease. Here it says, with the dhikr of Allah, hearts tremble. So there's a discussion that I have done before. Is there a contradiction over here? No, of course, there's no contradiction. And we've explained that in other place, so I won't go in those details right now. So in that context, we've talked about this ayat, how it's talking about the ayat. And this is the place where it's referring to the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When it says, إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجِلُوا آيَاتُهُ, because the word ayat has a very broad spectrum. But here the word ayat is actually referring towards his revelations. So when the revelations are recited, whenever you hear the kalam of Imam, which of course, many of the words of the wisdom of Ma'asumin that we haven't heard, but whenever we get an opportunity in a majlis, sometimes we hear this, hadith for the first time, we say, Subhanallah. It increases your iman. When that is the ta'asir of a kalam of ghairullah, Imam or Rasulullah, then you say, Subhanallah, and increases your faith. Then let alone the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you hear the kalam of Allah, it increases your faith, it strengthens your faith. Number 3 is the occasion where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Nur, verse number 62 says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَإِذَا كَانُوا مَعَهُ عَلَى أَمْرٍ جَامِعٍ لَمْ يَذْهَبُوا حَتَّى يَسْتَأْذِنُوهُ. The true believers are those who believe, who have faith in God and His Messenger. See, the majority of these ayat have the similar beginning. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Similar to what Surah Hujurat, ayat number 15 said. The true believers are those who have faith in God and His Messenger, and when they're dealing with the Messenger in important matters, they do not leave without His permission. There's so much kalam in this ayat. It's similar to the Hujurat 15, which says, ثُمَّ لَمْ يَرْتَابُوا, that when they have brought iman, then they don't doubt for an instant. Over here it says, when they believe, and when they're dealing with the Messenger in important matters, Amr, which is important, highly important, they do not leave without his permission. So they remain with Prophet. Prophet hasn't given you the permission to leave, you should remain there. And so that highlights the importance of Rasulullah over here. And last verse is, again, from Surah Hujurat, ayat number 10. It says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Again, the same concept. The faithful are indeed those, إِخْوَةٌ فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخْوَيْكُمْ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. The faithful are indeed ikhwa, brothers. And of course, it encompasses sisters as well. So they don't, think that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using the word brothers, that He's not addressing them, He's addressing them as well. Therefore, make peace between your brothers and your sisters, and be wary of Allah, so that you may receive His mercy. We find that these 4 ayat put together, ayat number 15 of Surah Hujurat, ayat number 10 of Surah Hujurat, ayat number 62 of Surah Nur, chapter 24, and ayat number 2 of Surah Anfal. All 4 of these ayat begin with the word innamal mu'minun. Indeed, mu'min is this, and gives and lists some of the features of mu'min. So if you put these 4 verses together, we will be able to sketch a real and righteous mu'min out of them. The one whom Quran calls the real mu'min. Ulaika humul mu'minuna haqqa. Ulaika humus sadiqun. These are indeed the true believers. And of course, these are the ones who are sadiqeen and the righteous. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the tawfiq, that we are also counted amongst those who are mu'min and amongst those who are the righteous believers of His. And when we believe in Prophet and when we believe in Allah, we do not doubt for an instance, and we do not disobey their commands. And that's the true belief. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a tawfiq to follow these teachings of Quran and Masumin alayhi wassalam, hasten the zuhur of our weighted Imam, and make us amongst the helpers and the soldiers of Imam. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Mutawajjih ziyarat. Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah, assalamu alaikum ya Nabiullah, assalamu alaikum ya Habiballah, assalamu alaikum ya Khiyaratallah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك وعلى جدك وأبيك وعلى أمك وأخيك ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء، السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء، السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس وأنيس النفوس أيها المدفون بأرض التوصل ابن مصرضة ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك صاحب الأسر والزمان، السلام عليك إمام الإنس والجان، السلام عليك شريك القرآن، أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أعوانك وأنصارك ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد. Inshallah, do join us for the Shabbat Jummah program on Thursday night, and which again starts at 7:30 p.m. And next Wednesday, December 30th, we will have a virtual online annual Masjid-e-Ali and Sadiq School fundraiser. Inshallah, you will join us for that as well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.